you guys already know who I am. If you don't, my name is Leslie, and I'm here because I'm being graded, and I'm trying to graduate next weekend. Next slide. Okay, so my why question is, why do homicides go unsolved? And before I really even answer that, I want to touch on my personal story. Okay, so I had an uncle. His name was Guadalupe Gonzalez, but I called him Yo Chepo. And he came from Mexico, and he lived with us. And as a, he came to work and get a living out of it, yeah. And so he worked in construction, and so one day he was going up the ladder to the roof, and I think he slipped and got his leg stuck onto the ladder, and so he lost his right leg. So he was given a prosthetic leg, and so when he lived with us, my siblings and I and my parents, we took care of him. You know how we say in Spanish, convivimos con él. And so he was there, and so after his treatment, he decided to go back to Mexico to take care of my grandma, his mom. And so with him just having this recent treatment, he wanted to get a job, and you guys know how hard it is to get a job in Mexico, especially with everything that's going on. So he bought a van to transport people back and forth from the nearest city to El Rancho, so from Marabatío to the rancho that we lived in, which was Santana. And so one day, then fast forward July 4th, which was just last year, he was coming back from Marabatío, and this car pulled up, and they told him to stop. And my uncle, not knowing what's going on, he was a good person and everything. He stopped the van, and he had people in it. And the people, they told him, "Oh, get off the car." And my uncle, he was like, "Okay." So they told him to get on your knees, and he shot him in the head. Yeah, and so he fell forward, and I remember this picture that the news publicated. He was surrounded with a lot of pool, and this wasn't meant for him. It was actually meant for the guy who he bought the van of, because the cartels were going after the guy my uncle bought the van out from, and my uncle wasn't supposed to die. And so then this happened in Mexico, and I know that his case is not going to get solved because my grandpa, he died 30 years ago in Mexico too. He got shot, and it hasn't been solved. So I related it now to here in Chicago. There's been many homicides. So a homicide is it's the murder of another, and then another definition where it is slippery slope. It's just when one event leads to another, it's just a cycle. And so when I was doing this research, I found this interesting quote. It says, "If there's distrust of the police themselves in the system, all these scientific advances are not going to help us." So with detectives, them doing tracing or any of that, they won't be able to do that if there's a distrust between the community and the police. And so here we have to start off with okay, so how does a homicide occur? And so that's with crime and all that. So here, okay, so right here, I'm not sure if you guys have heard about this. This was a case. There was a family of 6 got killed in the Gage Park neighborhood. Another one was down here when, I'm not sure what her name was, but a girl, she was a teenage girl, she was killed in the Lakeshore Drive while being with a 20-year-old guy. And another case that I really followed up was this one. Have you guys ever heard of America's Most Wanted? Yeah, well, I watched that show. Well, now it's not on anymore, but here, this happened in 2012, and it happened in Burbank. So these two couples, they got married, and that night the mother didn't come home, so the bride's mom was worried because she was supposed to pick up her kids, and so she didn't come home, and so then they found her in her wedding dress in her bathtub with blood, and so her husband, Arnold, Hernandez, they're looking for him, and yeah, this is where I watch my news. And then here, this was on April 21st when the Chicago Tribune published this. That was 1,000 shootings. And then this was just this past month, May 23rd, and there's been 1,400 shootings, and some people have lost their lives just within like those shootings, and it's only been a month difference, and it's like 400 shootings. So this is going to like keep going up and up. Yeah. And so, like I said, how does it start? People begin to shoot each other. Talking the life of the victim, and this is a big problem in cities like Chicago, Miami, Baltimore, LA, and just any big populated city. And so the homicides begin to pile up. There's way too many for detectives to solve, and there's not many like detectives out in the field. And also because there's a mistrust between the police and the community, and you might wonder like how or why does that even have to do with this? And as I said, it's a slippery slope. It's one event leading to another. So the detectives, like, they rely on the information that witnesses, like, that they saw, and with the witnesses not trusting the police, then they won't be able to get past that and get that information to the detectives because they feel that they just can't. And this was just last year. Chicago police solved just 26% of the city's 472 homicides. So that's only 26%. That's not even half. So, like, what about the other half? And this is just a chart by the numbers. So in 2014, there was 416 murders, and only 213 got solved. And then when we go to here, 2015, just last year, there was 472 murders and only 227. And you know, as here in Chicago, there's just a shooting every day. You go home, and you're either you see it on Facebook or you see it on news. You're like another shooting. For example, the kid who got shot a block away from Hancock yesterday, and nobody knows why, but you know, like it's gonna take a while for his case to get solved. If he's lucky, or his family, it'll be solved right away. But there's other cases that haven't even been solved that happened like years ago, and a statistic I found is like for 2013, Illinois had a percentile of 55.4 of unsolved crime, and most of that percentile, almost all of it was just from the city of Chicago. And another thing is people don't come forward to help solve homicides because there's a growing no snitch culture, especially in minority communities. So if you go forward, you know, they call you a snitch, or also there's like snitches, snitches get stitches. And so that's why they decide not to come forward, and whatever they solve could have helped detectives solve like the case and bring like justice to the family, and for the family to be like in a state of peace. And also, police are still very effective at clearing certain kind of murders. And I thought, what does that have to do? So then I remember that when I took a CSI course in DC for Summer of a Lifetime, my professor told me that police, that they don't realize it when they're in a crime, they just do whatever, they just close it, whatever, but they could be stepping on like little like pieces of evidence. So that could ruin the whole case. So it's not only just the people, but the police as well. And so then I decided to interview my neighbor. He's a police officer for the Cicero department. And he said, you spend the most days, afternoons, and nights protecting those who dislike you, yet we run towards danger to make sure the citizens of our community don't have to worry. And this is just goes to show that we should be able to trust like our police officers. Like not all cops are bad cops, and I feel like the media perpetuates that by just like a few when they put them out there. And solution. Next. We should be able to rebuild the trust within the police and the community, so the community, like, they could come forward if they saw any evidence that could potentially lead to, like, the homicide case being solved, so the statistics could go down. So, like, community contribution and police being careful at crime scenes. And do you guys have any questions? No? Well, that's it.